6 new shows to talk about with some familiar faces from film. Renee Zellweger in The Thing About Pam, John C. Reilly in Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, and Greg Kinnear and Courtney Cox as well in Shining Vale. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. We've got 6 new shows to talk about, the 3 that I mentioned, as well as Bust Down, a sitcom on Peacock, and a couple of reality shows as well, the Courtship and Domino Masters. But before we get into all of that, we're going to do the news, and before we even do that, I want to welcome you in to my channel. Thank you for finding Dan Reviews It and this video. We do TV news and reviews every single week, talking about the latest in television news and the brand new shows that are on your streaming services and your broadcast networks. And check out all of my videos as well. We do a lot of movie reviews here on the channel as well, both new and classic films. And if you're a TV fan, Masked Singer and The Conners every week that those are new. I do videos for those, so a lot of stuff on the channel to check out. But first, like I said, let's get into the news for the week. We've got a lot of renewals and a few cancellations as well to talk about. So one of the great new shows of this year, Abbott Elementary, is coming back for season 2. It is tied with CBS's program Ghosts for the #1 freshman comedy in ages 18 to 49. And it's, people are talking about this Abbott Elementary. They love it. I love it. So glad to see that will be back for season 2. I think we're about done with season 1 because I believe it's only 13 episodes, and I think 10 or 11 have aired already. So we're definitely winding down for the season. The CW has renewed a whole handful of shows. All American is coming back for season 5. The Flash coming back for season 9 already. Oh my God. Kung Fu for season 3. Nancy Drew for season 4. Riverdale for season 7. I gave up on that one a long time ago. And Superman and Lois and Walker both for a 3rd season. Of the 7 renewals, 5 are from Warner's Studios, with only 2 from CBS Studios. The CW previously had an agreement when CBS and Warner Brothers went in together that they will have a 50-50 balance of originals from both studios. So either they're going to pick up some of the other CBS shows they have, or maybe some of the freshman class will be from CBS Studios. That's interesting. I mean, Warner owns all of the Arrowverse stuff, so anything related to DC Comics is going to be through Warner Brothers. Superman and Lois, The Flash. So, yeah. But anyway, moving on to HBO Max, they've renewed And Just Like That for season 2. Originally, I think that was really slated to be a one-season, a one-off miniseries, Sex and the City reunion. But I think we all kind of knew, well, if it was successful, they would keep it going for more seasons. And sure enough, they are doing just that with season 2. And then a couple shows on BET. Tyler Perry has a show on there called Sistas. That's renewed for season 5, and Oval for season 4. Both Tyler Perry productions. And they are, listen to this, the top 2 basic cable entertainment shows among Black viewers. So obviously BET still bringing in a nice return on their investments. So they're going to be renewing those. All right, ending. The Babysitters Club is done at Netflix. It lasted 2 seasons. Season 2 wrapped up 4 months ago, but they had not come to a decision yet on season 3, and now they have one. There will be no season 3 for the Babysitters Club. Nick Cannon's talk show is done. I was not surprised by this. I reviewed it and thought it was horrible. And it only averaged about 568,000 viewers per episode, and as a comparison, Kelly and Ryan get 2.3 million, and Dr. Phil gets 2.5 million. Those are the top 2 talk shows during the day. So it's about a quarter or a fifth of those audiences. So stands to reason that is done. And then Maury, speaking of talk shows, Maury is finally ending after 31 years in production. Maury Povich is 83 years old. So, I mean, how much longer can he do the paternity test, really? New episodes are going to continue to air through September, and then reruns will enter the syndication market. Syndication market at this point is littered with old daytime content because Judge Judy now has her IMDb show. So the 25 years in the books for the original Judge Judy show is now airing just in repeats. And then Jerry Springer, that show has been off in new episodes for years, and that's been running very well in syndication all of this time. So yeah, I mean, something like a paternity test really has no expiration date. They're not going to, they're not date specific episodes. Same with Jerry Springer. Same really with Judge Judy. So it makes sense. But yeah, they'll continue to air Maury Povich probably for as long as he's alive, honestly, in the syndicated reruns. New Amsterdam is going to finish with its previously announced 5th season. And that's going to be next year. It's the final of their, or maybe they're in now the final of their last of a 3-season pickup. So NBC decided to renew it for a smaller season. It's only going to be 13 episodes. And at this point in time, New Amsterdam came out very strong, came out swinging, but after that first couple of seasons, it started to dwindle in the ratings, but NBC was like, well, we already renewed this thing for a full 3 more years, so we got to stick with it. So that's going to be done in the 2022-23 TV season. And then My Brilliant Friend on HBO is ending after season 4. Season 3 is currently airing now. I have not seen this show, so I don't really have a comment about that. And that's all for the renewals and cancellations. And some casting news. Hacks Season 2 is beefing up its recurring roster. I love this show. Of course, Gene Smart won the Golden Globe and the Emmy and many, many awards for this show. But Laurie Metcalf from The Conners, Ming-Na Wen from ER and the old Mulan movie, and Martha Kelly from Euphoria are going to recur as guest stars in Season 2. And then Margaret Cho has been tapped as well for a 1-episode guest spot on Hacks. Good Trouble star Maya Mitchell exits the series. She is one of really the 2 stars of that series. It spun off of the Fosters. But she's going to return to her native Australia. And I think in last week's episode or the week before, they actually sort of gave her like a send-off, and it's official. She is done with the program. No hard feelings. She just wanted to move back to Australia. But she's played that character, Callie Adams Foster, over 156 episodes between the Fosters and Good Trouble. And Good Trouble will finish out season 5, and then we'll see, if it gets picked up. Mike Myers is going to play 8 characters in a new Netflix series called The Penta Verite, which focuses on a secret society of 5 men. I assume they're all going to be played by Mike Myers, who have been working to influence world events for the greater good since the Black Plague in the 1300s. The series is going to co-star Ken Jeong, Keegan-Michael Key, Debbie Mazur, Jennifer Saunders, and Lydia West. And Jeremy Irons is going to narrate this series. Mike Myers has kind of been out of the public eye for a little while. I mean, he did not a guest spot, but he had like a little cameo role in Bohemian Rhapsody, which makes sense since that song is so closely associated with Wayne's World. And then he hosted a new version of The Gong Show like 5 or 6 years ago in a character. He wasn't doing Mike Myers. He was doing a character as the host, which I never watched, but it sounded intriguing anyway. I think it was like some like British or Australian host, and he played him. So I love Mike Myers. I think he went off the rails a little bit, sort of with like The Love Guru and stuff like that. But Austin Powers and those movies, that's some of the funniest stuff to me. I love those movies. His SNL days obviously are legendary. His, voicing of Shrek, classic. So, I'm a Myers fan, so I am looking forward to this. All right, in terms of some just odds and ends. So, Marlee Matlin, I should say, who is an Oscar winner from the 80s, and she just was in the new Best Picture winner, Coda. She's going to make her directorial debut now with Fox's upcoming anthology crime drama, The Accused. We've talked about this show a couple of times now. It's going to have a different director for each episode and different cast. And her episode is going to be about a deaf woman who becomes a surrogate and then commits a crime of advocacy and protection. And the show in general is going to always open, I guess, on a courtroom on The Accused, with the viewers knowing nothing about the crime or how they ended up on trial, and then we're going to sort of go through the defendant's point of view in these flashbacks, and that's, what the show is going to be. So, sounds interesting, and that's going to be on Fox. Netflix expanding its relationship with the Dr. Seuss Enterprises with a deal for 5 new animated preschool series and specials. They've already got Green Eggs and Ham, which is finally returning for season 2 after a 2.5-year hiatus. I first reviewed that in one of my first TV news and reviews back in 2019 in the fall. So that's finally returning after this long. But they're going to do Horton Hears a Who, The Sneetches, Wacky Wednesday, One Fish, Two Fish, and then other characters as well will sort of show up. And Green Eggs is a hand-drawn show, which I think is why maybe we've taken a couple of years in the hiatus. But I really loved that first season of Green Eggs and Ham. I did finish it. And it wasn't necessarily for preschoolers. I thought it was more for like a little old. I mean, preschoolers could watch it. It was inoffensive, but I think more for like maybe 7 to 10 year olds. But you had not Martin Sheen, what's his name? Michael Douglas was in it, and Adam Devine was in it. So, a few things for the adults as well. And speaking of Netflix, J.J. Abrams and Netflix are teaming up for a U2 scripted biography limited series about the band. Now, U2. J.J. Abrams, I love. I love U2. So I'm interested in this, but it is not a documentary. It's going to be a bio series. So it's going to be, actors playing Bono and The Edge and, record executives or whatever. So we'll see that at some point as well. True Detective is finally heading back for season 4. This will be the first without co-creator Nick Pizzolatto. Barry Jenkins is going to produce. He did Moonlight and The Underground Railroad. There's no word on any casting choices yet, but it might be called Night Country is what they're saying. What else do I have? Oh, and then just reboots and spinoffs. We've just got one to talk about. The Love Boat is coming back yet again. They've revived this show a couple of times. This time, though, it's going to be a dating reality series. CBS is going to revive this program. And like the beloved series, the indispensable captain and crew members will play pivotal roles in the matchmaking and navigation of the romantic and turbulent waters ahead. And after a month at sea, only one winning couple will make it to take home the final prize. So, all right, well, that's what I have for you by way of the news. So let's dive into the reviews because we've got 6 shows. And I've fallen a little bit behind here because I've been talking about Oscar movies and my 2021 movie wrap-ups. So these are shows that have been on for about 3 weeks now. But the nice thing about that is it allows me to watch a few more episodes before I really give it a grade. Sometimes I only get like 1 week or 1 episode. So in this case, I watched at least 2 or 3 of most of these shows. So The Thing About Pam is where we're going to start. This is on NBC. Very, very high profile because it's got Renee Zellweger and Josh Duhamel as sort of the stars here. Judy Greer is in it as well. And it's based on the Pam Hupp crime story, which I was unfamiliar with, but it had, a popular podcast like they all do. So many of these podcasts now are being turned into shows or movies. But this is, Dateline, NBC did a whole story about this, and then a podcast happened with Dateline with it. So they said, all right, well, let's stick with the NBC family and leave it to the Renee Zellweger as Pam Hupp, and they did a lot of things with her makeup and her voice. And we saw Renee Zellweger transform as Judy Garland. I was impressed with that, and I'm impressed with this too. She continually, look, I thought she was great in Jerry Maguire, but then, and Chicago as well. But a lot of the movies she did, in the romantic comedy genre, just, they didn't wow me. In fact, most of them were pretty bad. And I just thought, all right, well, is this woman's career kind of over now? But no, she's really been choosing some interesting projects in these last 2 years. And I think here is another one. Josh Duhamel plays sort of the main defense attorney for the accused, who is this woman's husband. So Pam Hupp, it's not even spoilery really, because I think we know this from the start that Pam is the one who did it, and she's sort of throwing the husband under the bus. So it's more of a case of like, okay, well, how did we get here? So, she murders this woman. We don't quite know how yet, because we haven't been over that. I've seen 3 episodes, and they haven't really dove into that yet. But Josh Duhamel plays the attorney for the first accused person, which is the husband. And he's played by Sean Bridgers. So I have some sort of mixed reviews about this. So Keith Morrison from the famous Dateline provides the narration to the show. And I'm not sure if that was the way to go. Like, obviously, Dateline people are used to, that sort of chillingly odd demeanor. And Bill Hader did, a great impression of him on Saturday Night Live, where he says these really bizarre kind of things. And it's almost like he's sort of getting off on talking about these murders and stuff. And that's sort of a running gag. But he is sort of doing his Keith Morrison shtick. That's hard to say for this as the narrator, but I'm not positive that it was the right tone, or if that maybe we even needed a narration. I feel like since this was already on Dateline, didn't they already sort of do a version of this with the narrations? So here, yes, we have it, an acted out version of it, unlike Dateline, which is more, they'll just take random pictures and still frames and sort of show those. So I'm sure the presentation is a little bit different, but I'm not sure if we needed a narrator here. Especially because that's how we know right away, basically, that, okay, well, this Pam woman is the one who did the murder. There's no sort of mystery there. Now, there is a bit of mystery of, okay, how do they figure that out? And what happens with the husband? How do they know he's innocent? Whatever. So that's sort of the central mystery. But I don't know. It would have been maybe a little more intriguing for people that didn't know the story, like myself. I don't follow true crime shows and Datelines and 2020s and stuff. I don't know. I find it too depressing and too macabre a little bit to do that. So I'm not familiar with a lot of these cases that they turn into TV shows and movies in this vein. So I don't know. Maybe they could have done without the narration. I also do feel like some of the actors are sort of, I don't want to say sleepwalking through their role or phoning it in, but they're just not as good as I've seen them. Like Judy Greer, for example, she's fine. And they gave her, a brunette wig instead of a blonde that we usually see her as. Something a little different for her. But it's like, really the reason to watch this, I think, is going to be Renee Zellweger. However, it does sort of beg the question, all right, well, could we have had maybe a bigger boned actress in this role instead of, just Renee Zellweger in a fat suit and pancake makeup? Look, we could debate that, I suppose, but she is great in this role, very riveting as Pam. She does, I think, lean a little bit into caricature at times, but again, it's from a Dateline special, so it's like a lot of times they do sort of that over-the-top kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily her fault or the script or the direction, but this ends up being a pretty middling affair, but I do have to admit, it's only 6 episodes long and they're hours each. So, okay, 6 hours of this, minus the commercials, it's about 5 hours or a little less total. So I think you could do worse. Netflix usually does like an 8 to 10 hour saga with this kind of stuff that does not usually need to be that long. I think 6 hours is probably the right length for this. I'm just not sure that all of it came together for me. So I'm going to leave the Thing About Pam with a C+. Up next is Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. This is over on HBO, and of course you can catch up on HBO Max as well. And this has got a lot of firepower behind it. I mentioned in the intro that John C. Reilly is here as Jerry Buss. And as we get more into the thick of it, we will see other people as well, including Adrian Brody. An almost unrecognizable Jason Clarke is here as Jerry West. And newcomer Quincy Isaiah plays Magic Johnson. This is essentially, the title says it all. It's the rise of the LA Lakers in the 1980s. And this is going to be apparently an ongoing series. I'm not positive if it has been renewed yet for season 2, but they are not classifying this as a miniseries. So season 1 takes the 1980s era of the Lakers and how the coaches and the managers got involved and how Jerry Buss, played by John C. Reilly, got the team and all of this. So as we continue, we may have, like in the 90s, we may have them facing against the Jordan Dream Team era. I don't know. But the other really big name, though, behind this is going to be Adam McKay. He is one of the executive producers here. And I do believe, let me look here, I do believe he has directed... Okay, so he just directed the first one. Jonah Hill directed the second one. Didn't know that. And looks like that's it. Looks like there's a few different directors here. And that kind of makes sense because I watched the first 2 episodes of this, and the second episode did have a different feel to it, kind of a different vibe. Episode 1 is very much in that Adam McKay camp. He was just nominated in the Best Picture column at the Oscars for Don't Look Up, which was very divisive. I did not care for it. And typically I don't care for his recent movies. He did Vice, which I thought was pretty good, but then he did The Big Short, which I thought was pretty bad. And he has this specific style. I will give him that he has his own directing style, and it's a lot of like fourth wall breaking, talking to the camera. You know, smarter than the room kind of vibe. You know, and that kind of wears on me. And I was trying to, as I was watching the first episode, I was trying to put my finger on like, okay, what is it about these Adam McKay things that like bother me so much? And I think it is because he just thinks he's more clever than anybody. And, you know, he has his own flair and his own style. I'll give him that. But as Don't Look Up proved, that isn't necessarily a good thing. You know, it's too much of that sort of smarmy style. It's smarmy. And so, look, I actually did enjoy this more than most Adam McKay projects. And it makes sense to me now that I'm looking at it that Jonah Hill directed the second episode, not Adam McKay. Because it did have a different vibe to it. And I thought, oh, well, maybe, you know, he just used his sort of signature style to get us into the action. And then as we're getting to know these characters, he sort of peels that back. But no, it's because he didn't even direct it. So good. That works. Because I thought there was too much of that in the first episode. Way too much of the fourth wall breaking and the, you know, just being quippy and all of that. But the performances here are great. John C. Reilly is fantastic as Jerry Buss. He is, I don't want to say unrecognizable because I don't think that is true, but he does a great job of definitely transforming into the role. You know it's him, but mostly from the voice. But I mean, he is definitely acting different than, you know, we've seen him before. And then, like I said, a lot of these other characters, Jason Clarke, I didn't even know that was him till right now, doing Jerry West. That was great. Gabby Hoffman is here as well, as Claire Rothman, who is Jerry's, like, ex-wife. For somebody who does not know or care really about basketball, this guy right here, this was, I thought, pretty intriguing. I don't think it's going to be quite up there with, you know, some of your great sports dramas, but it's got that Adam McKay sort of comedy vibe to it as well. So it leans, I think, in a little bit of a different direction than some of that stuff anyway. I think they're having a little more fun with it. It's got that classic look as well of the late 70s, early 80s with the lenses they're using and the lighting and stuff and sort of the graininess of the film. Sort of another Adam McKay staple, you know, trying to bring us really into the moment with things like the lighting and the lenses used. So I do think this isn't quite as winning, no pun intended, as some of the other things we've seen in this vein. But for somebody who doesn't really know or care about basketball at all, I do think it's engaging enough. So I will leave Winning Time, the Lakers dynasty, the rise of the Lakers dynasty. Great name. I can't even say it. With a B. I'm going to leave Winning Time with a B. All right, so up next, we're going to go to Shining Vale over on Starz. And this has some big names as well. Courtney Cox and our good buddy Greg Kinnear are the stars of this program. And this is sort of like, it's a horror comedy, kind of. And I would urge you to watch more than just the first episode, because I actually did not think the first episode was very appealing. But I felt the same about the CBS program Ghosts, and now it's like one of my favorite shows. Love it. But that first episode, I was like, oh, I don't know. CBS was smart and put 2 episodes on the first week. But here, again, since I'm a few weeks behind, I was able to watch the first 3 episodes of this Shining Vale. And this is basically about this very dysfunctional family that moves from the city into a small town, and they're having a lot of marital problems. The husband and wife, Courtney Cox, plays Patricia, who writes these really raunchy female empowerment novels. And so Greg Kinnear as Terry, the husband, is sort of like the, you know, he does not wear the pants in the family, you know, very sort of put upon, and all of that sort of stuff. But Patricia's having writer's block, and perhaps the ghosts that live in this new house that they bought are going to help her in the writing. Now, it's unlike CBS's Ghosts, where it's like straight ahead comedy and she can see the ghosts. You know, it's in the very, very thinnest of premises is it similar to Ghosts. But it is important to sort of note you do need more than 1 episode, because if I was grading it after the 1 episode, it would be like in the C minus range. But then after I saw the other two, I was like, okay, now I'm kind of getting into this. I'm getting the characters a little bit down more. And I'm sort of enjoying the interplay between the comedy and the horror. So I'm definitely giving it a higher grade from that first episode. But Greg Kinnear, always good to see him. I don't think he gets enough due out there. He's always, a great help in any sort of ensemble. And Courtney Cox, look, she's kind of hot right now coming off of the new Scream movie, also a horror comedy. But I think the two of them work well together as sort of this dysfunctional couple. Their kids are just kind of miserable snots, and you want to smack them, but that's sort of their point. Um, my biggest issue, I should say, with the show, and it really is one of my only issues, but I think it's a glaring one, is that the balance of the comedy and the horror is way off. None of the horror stuff is particularly that scary, and I think that they want it to be. And then some of the comedy is, kind of laugh out loud funny, but sometimes they like aren't going full hog on that because they want there to be maybe like a tense scene or a tense musical sting or something. So they pull back a little bit on that too. So I don't think either the horror or the comedy is really kind of reaching its full potential here, especially the horror element. So I think of this as more of a comedy than anything else. I wasn't really scared at any of the stuff, and I'm kind of a fraidy cat with this stuff, so I think maybe I would be a little more if the horror was a bit more, not that it needed to be gruesome per se, but just a little more of it and a little more scary. It's getting to be, after this third episode, are they going to be friends with these ghosts, kind of like in the CBS show? I don't know. I don't think that's particularly the direction they need to go in, but I wonder if that's how they're going to end up, doing this, which I think would do the show a disservice. So overall, like I said, this is very, very high, much higher than that first episode would indicate. So I'm going to leave Shining Vale with a B. All right, up next is Bust Down. This is over on Peacock. And I think all 6 episodes are up right now. I watched the first 3, but it follows a group of friends working at this casino in Gary, Indiana. They're all working sort of low-paying jobs. One of them is a security guard, and one of them is a cook. One of them is a valet. Chris Redd is one of the only names I really recognize. He is really doing a lot right now because he's on the Keenan sitcom, but he's also part of SNL. And then Sam Jay is here as well, who had her own sort of sketch variety show that I reviewed last year. And then the other people I don't really recognize here. But again, here's another one where I needed sort of to move on from that first episode. The first episode is good in its own way, and it is funny, but it's very, very like hardcore. They really throw you into this universe with these characters. And I think it was a little early for characters we don't know yet, because the first episode is all about sexual assault at work. One of the casino bosses sexually assaults one of the guys here. And so they have this whole, debate about it. And, there's a little shades of the first season episode of Always Sunny, where we sort of look back at Mac and Dennis, or no, Dennis and Charlie, I think it was, who got molested by their gym teacher as a kid. And that was like the third episode of Always Sunny. It's a heavy topic for characters that we do not know. And so the comedy comes off as a little bit like stilted, because you're like, I don't know if this is how this person normally is, or if it's because they've been traumatized and like that's not funny. And so I urge you again on this one, watch past the first episode, watch the first episode. But if you're not fully into it yet, keep going, and it will get a little bit better the more we know these characters. By the third episode, I was howling along with some of these premises and the jokes and stuff. Sam Jay, I thought she had potential, but I did not love the variety show she did. But here I think we're really seeing her shine a little bit more with her acting chops. And Chris Redd, I think, is very funny. I think he's an underrated cast member on SNL, because they have literally, I think, 17 or 18 main cast members right now on SNL. So a lot of them get lost in the shuffle. And I think Chris Redd is one of them. Like, he always sort of brings it when he shows up, but here he's really able to kind of showcase his comedic skills. So I like that as well. This could prove to be a very, very funny sitcom over time. I think it's got the groundwork for that. And I might go back after I watch all 6 and watch the first one again and just see, okay, is hitting me differently now that I know these characters a little better, because my guess is that it will. So for now, I leave Bust Down with a B plus. I think this was pretty funny, and for somebody who, like myself, who works, a lot of lower paying jobs, I can definitely relate to some of the stuff happening here. So. All right, we will close with two reality game show type of things: the Courtship, which is a dating series, and then Domino Masters, which is over on Fox, and that is in the Lego Masters vein. It's just building, big Rube Goldberg type machines with dominoes instead of building with big Lego things. So these are going to be pretty quick, I think. First, let's talk about the Courtship, because I don't have much to say about this. It takes place in, classic, like, England, whatever you want to say, like the classic Victorian era, the Jane Austen type of thing. And basically they, are trying to win the heart of this girl, and it's not lost on me that the main girl picking is African American, because of course back in this day, she would not have been sort of in the main house. She wouldn't have owned the house, that's for sure. So it was not lost on me. It might be pandering a little bit that they did that, but all right, it's fine. But the biggest problem with this show is it's just like every other dating show. It's The Bachelor all over again. In fact, I will say this started on NBC, and after a couple episodes was pulled, and now they're finishing the run on USA. So obviously didn't make a huge dent with the viewers either, but there's just not much to this. It's more of the same of like, all right, there's all these, suitors, and they come in and, they go on these extravagant adventures, and, they're in this, $1 billion castle, like whatever. But, at the end of the day, whoever she picks, they're just going to go home and live a normal humdrum life, and that's why they always break up. So, look, this is bringing nothing new to the table, except for this sort of, era that they're in. And I know NBC's logic was like, oh, Downton Abbey's so hot, and the Gilded Age, and all of these sort of classic Victorian era type things, and the lavish houses and costumes and the rolling fields and all of this. But I feel like the people that mostly watch those shows, like my parents, for example, would never watch this in a million years. There's definitely some crossover with the Jane Austen crowd and like the Bachelor crowd. I acknowledge that. But I think it's maybe less than NBC was sort of anticipating. That's why the ratings were so low. So this adds nothing to the genre. I was very, very bored with this. No originality. I leave the Courtship with the D. All right, so Lego Masters. I almost said Domino Masters is next. And it really is a very, very similar show to Lego Masters. It's from the Fox, alternative programming, which is, they bring us The Masked Singer and I Can See Your Voice and all this. So instead of Will Arnett as host, it's Eric Stonestreet from Modern Family. And he's not new to the hosting game. He hosted a toy show on ABC a few seasons ago about the toy inventors and stuff. But here it's much like Lego in the fact that we have these different teams. Here there's teams of 3 instead of teams of 2, because domino building is, I think, a little more not intricate than Legos. I don't want to say that, or Lego. But there's definitely more moving parts to this than in Lego Masters. They're building straight up machines here. Rube Goldberg machines are those things where, like in Mousetrap, the game, where it's like one thing will knock over something, and then a ball will roll and then knock over something else, and then that will, it's like a chain reaction kind of thing. And so the builds here are very interesting. And what they're doing is 4 teams at a time, because the builds are so intricate and stuff. They're really letting us sort of see how they're doing it and then watch them in action. And so 4 teams per episode until they whittle them down. 2 teams get sent home each episode so far, and then eventually I guess we'll crown the winner. But my biggest issue with this is the judges. So Danica McKellar of The Wonder Years, I have no problem with her. She's great, and she is a mathematician. She writes math books, and there is obviously a lot of math and physics in domino builds. So sure, makes sense. Vernon Davis is okay. He's like a former football player. In fact, I just saw him name that tune last night as like a celebrity version. He's fine here. I don't know that he contributes that much, but he's okay. And then Steve Price, who is a real-life domino master. Like, he has won awards and all of this. He's like the top of the game. But as a judge, as a commentator, he is the most wooden person. He has zero negative personality even. I mean, he's just, and he may add a couple of insightful comments here or there because he knows, how to make domino builds, but like he's just completely lifeless. So he is a huge negative. And then also they have the announcer Joe Buck as the announcer of, okay, now we've got the dominoes moving and oh, well, that didn't work, as they had hoped and whatever, whatever. But it's very, very clear from the editing that he is just not even there. He's not, and they pretend like he is. Eric Stone Street's like, okay, Joe, like take it away in the booth, But we never see him. We only hear his voice, and it's very obvious that he does this after the fact. He's in a little recording booth and he's watching the video back well after they've taped it. It just adds more inauthenticity, I thought. So, look, it's an interesting enough show. And I love seeing the machines go. I think that's a lot of fun. But I think having one of the three judges be completely bland and then that Joe Buck element, I just wish it would have been more interesting if they had him live there in the studio. He's a Fox commentator. I'm sure they could work out his contract, where he could be there. So, for those reasons, I'm not going to give it a super high grade, but like Lego Masters, it is at least interesting to see the builds and to see the creativity of people. So I like that. I will leave Domino Masters with a B-. All right, so that will do it. Like I said, since I am a few weeks behind continually here, way a lot of things to catch up on. But now that the Oscars is behind us and I can focus a little more on the TV stuff here these next few months, we are going to catch up for sure. But I'm trying to think of all the shows that have premiered. There's so many. Welcome to Flatch on Fox is one. Hulu has a couple new ones I want to get to. Moon Knight just premiered on Disney Plus. Or what is it? I think it's called Moon Knight, right? Anyway, we'll get to all of that over the next couple of weeks here. So thank you for watching. We'll see everybody next time.